Bolt fam, breathe for a second, because this is one of those off-season mornings where the whole chessboard shifts. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. There's extra room that feels like a gift and a trap at the exact same time. There's a speed rumor that's been blowing up group chats for a reason. There's a defensive move that's flying under the radar way too hard. And there's a young offensive piece who might end up being the closest thing to a new addition without spending a dime. Sit with that. Are we watching the Chargers build something steady? Or are we about to get our patience tested all over again? All right, if you're rocking with me today, go ahead and hit like, make sure you're subscribed, and tell me where you land in the comments as we go, because I can already feel this one splitting the fan base. The Chargers can look stacked on paper right now and feel squeezed tomorrow. That's the NFL. Cap space isn't a trophy, cap space is a countdown. 1 minute it's sitting there making you feel comfortable, and the next minute it's tied up in re-signings, extensions, bonus structures, and those quiet cleanup moves you don't even notice until the math shows up. And when a team is trying to build a real identity, Harbaugh ball, physical football, discipline, and now an offense that can actually be modern, every dollar turns into a decision the locker room can feel. So let's get uncomfortable fast. Do you trust this front office to spend like pros? Or are you worried they'll chase the shiny thing and pay for it later? Because the league just nudged Los Angeles in a helpful direction. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero put it out there. The 2026 salary cap is expected to jump to roughly $301 to $305.7 million per club. That's a big leap from last season's $279.2 million mark. And I know how it sounds. Cap talk can feel like spreadsheet noise. But for a team trying to keep key pieces while still improving the roster, that jump is real breathing room. Not unlimited, not magical, but real. On projections like Spot Track, an estimated cap around $303 million has the Chargers sitting around $87 million in available space. And yeah, somebody will say, that's not some massive swing. Fine. It doesn't need to be massive by itself. This is one of those situations where the little pieces stack. Cap jump, plus smart roster cuts, plus potential restructures, and suddenly you're not choosing between two painful compromises. You're actually buying solutions. Now we get to the part that actually matters. Who stays? The free agent list isn't just a bunch of names. It sets the tone for what this team is going to be. Khalil Mack is the biggest question mark, because one decision from him changes the entire pass rush conversation in a heartbeat. Trey Pipkins comes up because under Harbaugh, the offensive line isn't a side topic. It's the foundation. And Keenan Allen. That name hits every nerve, because you know what he means on Sundays. And you also know what happens when money and age start showing up in the same sentence. But the one that really jumps off the page is Odafe Oweh. The Chargers got a legitimate win bringing him in, and letting a player like that walk right as he's breaking out in your system, that's the kind of move that follows you around. That's the kind of move you feel on 3rd and long in January. That's the kind of move that has fans posting, "How did we let this happen?" for months. And don't ignore the smaller bites, because they add up. The draft pool is expected to cost roughly $5 million of cap space. There's about $3.5 million in rollover cap from last year too. Nothing flashy, but those margins matter when you're trying to keep the whole roster balanced instead of building a top-heavy lineup that collapses the moment something goes wrong. So I'm asking you straight, with the league pushing the ceiling up, do you get aggressive right now? Or do you play this clean, lock in the right guys, and avoid that nasty cap hangover later? And while you're doing that mental math, there's another conversation creeping in, the kind that doesn't go away. Not because it's guaranteed, because it's tempting. There's talk, and you know exactly how these things spread. It starts as a bar argument, becomes a tweet, and suddenly half the fan base is picturing a highlight reel in their head like it already happened. It comes back to one simple reality. Mike McDaniel is now running the offense in Los Angeles, and that alone changes the whole what-if ecosystem around this team. Speed, motion, explosives, chunk plays, that's the McDaniel DNA. And once that's standing on your sideline, people start connecting dots whether you want them to or not. So the big what if making the rounds, sparked by a conversation on Locked On Chargers, is whether the Chargers, in any scenario, could explore a move for Dolphins star wideout Tyreek Hill. The logic behind the chatter is pretty straightforward. McDaniel's best offensive stretches were built around stressing defenses with speed and space, and Hill was the engine that made that model hum. When a high-profile play caller changes teams, fans and media always wonder if he's going to try to reunite with the pieces that made it all click. And the off-season context is what keeps it alive. Anytime a team feels cap pressure, big contracts start getting tossed around as trade or release talking points. And when there's an obvious partner on the other side, like the coordinator who knows the player and the scheme, the storyline basically writes itself. Put a weapon like that with Justin Herbert, and it's easy to see why defensive coordinators would be staring at the schedule thinking about the red zone and 3rd and long all week. Be honest. Just because something sounds fun doesn't mean it's the move you should want. The Locked On Chargers discussion leaned hard toward possible but unlikely, and not something you should want. And the reasons hit differently when you slow down and stop daydreaming. First, health and availability. If there's real worry about how a serious injury impacts a player whose game is built on burst and acceleration, that matters. A lot. Second, the age curve. Every GM fears the same question. Are we paying for what he will be, or what he was? That's not disrespect. That's basic roster survival. Third, money and acquisition cost. It wouldn't just be a contract. You're talking about the chance of giving up picks or assets, and that's sensitive when this roster still has other needs. And fourth, this one is uncomfortable, but it's real. Locker room risk. The tone around the idea reflects resistance to adding extra noise to a building that's trying to build chemistry and a consistent identity. Because if you zoom out, the bigger roster building picture is pretty clear. Protection, run game stability, and building an offense that can hold up through December and into a playoff run. Under Harbaugh, the natural pull is to build the foundation, especially up front, before taking a high-risk, high-cost swing at receiver. So right now, that Hill to Chargers link reads a lot more like classic offseason speculation with an obvious McDaniel connection than a concrete path. But in this league, cap pressure, plus a big contract, plus staff changes, is usually enough to keep a rumor breathing until the market opens and real decisions start landing. And while everybody's staring at the offense, something quieter happened on the other side of the ball. Something that could end up shaping Sundays more than any rumor ever could. The Chargers hired Chris O'Leary as the new defensive coordinator, and a lot of people did a double take because it's a jump from the college ranks, where he held the same role at Western Michigan in 2025. But before you brush it off as a college guy move, look at what he actually did. In 2024, that defense ranked 118th in total defense. In 2025, it jumped to 14th nationally. That's not a minor adjustment, that's a full rebuild. They were 9th in FBS and 2nd in the MAC for scoring defense, allowing just 17.4 points per game. A turnaround like that usually tells you it isn't just scheme, it's teaching, it's development, it's culture. And you know what really sells it? Players backing it up. Western Michigan edge rusher Nadam Tucker, an NFL draft prospect who was at the Senior Bowl, talked about playing for O'Leary, and you could hear the respect in how he said it. He called him my guy, said he deserved it, and then he got into the actual football part. Technique, hand placement, setting the edge, falling back inside, playing free. Tucker even said O'Leary saw him more like Khalil Mack, and Tucker backed that up with 14.5 sacks and a violent, disruptive style of play. That's what I keep coming back to. It doesn't sound like a coach trying to jam everyone into the same mold. It sounds like a coach who spots what you do well and builds around it. And O'Leary isn't walking into LA blind either. He's returning to Los Angeles after previously serving as the safeties coach 2 years ago. He knows the building. He knows the standard. He knows what it feels like when the spotlight is on you every week. The job won't be easy, because he's stepping into a defense that ranked near the top in multiple categories this past season under one of his mentors, Jesse Minter. Expectations won't be patient. Not here. Not with this fan base. Still, Tucker's message to Chargers fans was basically, relax. He called O'Leary a ball guy, a brainiac, someone who eats, sleeps, and drinks football. And look, love that phrasing or not, the obsession matters. You want a coordinator who lives in the details if you're trying to stay sharp week after week. Now, while the defense gets a new mind drawing up pressure and coverage, the offense has a name that might be the biggest upgrade of the offseason without even adding a player. Let me say this clearly, the most impactful offensive addition might already be on the roster. It just needed the right context. Emergence of Gadsden II fits that description. And no, this isn't empty hype. The Chargers traded up in the 2025 draft to select the Syracuse weapon because they saw a mismatch creator. Wide receiver movement skills in a tight end frame, explosiveness, and the ability to generate yards after the catch. His season didn't start clean. Play calling and injuries messed with rhythm, and early on he was inactive for stretches. It honestly felt like he was being stored instead of unleashed. Then reality hit the depth chart. Tyler Conklin and Will Dissly weren't viable options in the offense, and the team didn't have much choice but to let the rookie off the leash. And once that happened, you saw exactly why the pick mattered. In Week 6, against the Mike McDaniel-led Dolphins, Gadsden kicked off his breakout with 7 catches for 68 yards. Then he followed it with a real explosion. 7 catches, 164 yards, and a touchdown against the Colts. He didn't have another 100-yard game after that, and a lot of it came down to factors that weren't on him. But the flashes were loud enough to change how defenses treated him. He finished with 664 yards in 2025, and that production mattered for this offense. The deeper profile is what has people excited. PFF listed him among the intriguing rookies from the 2025 season, and pointed to the upside still sitting there. His deep target rate was 11.3%, number 2. His yards after catch per reception was 4.5, number 21, and his yards per route run was 1.65, number 10. They even called him an extremely intriguing TE1 candidate in 2026 and beyond. Now connect the dots without overthinking it. A versatile, athletic tight end who can line up in different spots, paired with a coordinator known for motion, spacing, and creating easy answers for the quarterback. That's exactly the type of player who can explode in McDaniel's world. Not just by catching a ton of passes, by creating stress, by forcing defenses into bad choices, by turning simple throws into chunk plays. So the real question isn't whether Gadsden can take a step. It's how big that step can be if the offense is actually designed to feature what he does best. And that brings us right back to the big picture. Today is a reminder that the Chargers aren't just surviving the offseason, they're shaping what comes next. The cap helps, but the choices still have to be smart. The speed rumor is fun to argue about, but it bumps into the team's real priorities. The new defensive coordinator brings a different kind of confidence, development, detail, and a track record of real turnaround. And on offense, a young playmaker might be ready to become the headline without the team even shopping for one. So I want it from you, Bolt fam. Which of these storylines actually shifts the direction of the season the most? Do you trust the plan? Get in the comments with your answer, hit like if you're riding with the Bolts, subscribe if you want daily Chargers talk, and let's keep this debate rolling, because we're nowhere near the finish line yet.